Hello, everyone, and welcome to Making Black History with Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. This is the inaugural event to a brand new series that we call OUTFRONTX A-List. The A-List series invites leading voices with a wide range of expertise to engage our best clients in topical, engaging, and thought-provoking discussions on a variety of subjects. We'd like this to be the first of many opportunities that you'll have to join us, and we certainly thank you all for being here today with us. My name is Eric Davis. I am a Senior Vice President and Associate General Counsel in OUTFRONT's Department. I also share the role of Co-Chief Diversity Officer responsible for leading OUTFRONT's Diversity and Inclusion Program. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson is one of the nation's most renowned professors, a gifted writer, inspiring preacher, knowledgeable lecturer, and a prominent media personality. Dr. Dyson earned his PhD in religion from Princeton and has taught at some of the nation's most distinguished universities, including Chapel Hill, Columbia, DePaul, the University of Pennsylvania, and Georgetown. He is presently a distinguished professor of African American and Diaspora Studies and of Ethics and Society at Vanderbilt University, where he also holds the Centennial Chair. Dr. Dyson is one of America's premier public intellectuals, having authored over 20 books, including 7 New York Times bestsellers. He's a political analyst for MSNBC. He has won 2 NAACP Image Awards and an American Book Award. And just last year, he was awarded the Langston Hughes Medal. Today, we've asked Dr. Dyson to discuss the importance of Black History Month and its highlighted significance now in 2021. I'm sure many of you have heard him speak on any number of news programs where he's offered his insights. We were very fortunate here at OUTFRONT to have Dr. Dyson address our employees just last month ahead of Martin Luther King's birthday. And I guess the best way I can sum up what you're about to hear is to quote former President Barack Obama, who said, "Everybody who speaks after Michael Eric Dyson pales in comparison." There will be a short Q&A after the discussion, so please submit your questions through the Q&A chat feature at any time. And with that, I take pleasure in turning things over to Dr. Dyson.
Thank you so much, VP Davis, for that extraordinary introduction and for your great work and all the good that you do, and your wonderful team there. Sister Liz, Sister Veronica, Sister Courtney, and all the good folk there at OUTFRONT. It is a great opportunity during this February to speak about the virtues, the values, and the visions of white history, because I think it's been underrepresented, and I think white history, oh, wait a minute, wrong speech, that's wrong one. Oh, this is Black history. All right, all y'all out there, I'm just joking, stop. I knew it was white history, I mean Black history. Look, when we think about the power of Black history, it is extremely important to recognize that African American history, more broadly Black history, is American history, right? We wouldn't know what America truly is. We wouldn't get a sense of how America has truly evolved without understanding the depth, the breadth, the height, the range, the vast reaches of what we know as Black history. We know that Black History Month, Black History Week, Black History Day was begun by Carter G. Woodson, Harvard-trained historian who couldn't teach at Harvard. He could just get his PhD there. Went on to one of the greatest institutions of higher education in America, Howard University, and others, to teach. But Carter G. Woodson came up with the idea of a Black History celebration, a day, then a week, a week that would, in February, was chosen despite the conspiracy thinking of many Black people that, man, why they choose February, man, it's the shortest month and it's the coldest. Why? Well, Carter G. Woodson was looking at the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, and thinking about the extraordinary contributions of that duo and that tandem to embrace a week where the celebration of their legacies was certainly put forth, was the original idea. And then, of course, I believe it was in the 70s, perhaps under President Jimmy Carter, that Black History Week became Black History Month and a month-long celebration. We're working now on a year. If we can get a year, you know, we got first a day, then a week, now a month. We ain't satisfied. We got the P. Diddy approach. I thought I told you we wouldn't stop. I thought I told you we weren't going to stop. So we're looking for Black History Year. That means every day of every year, 365 days, we're going to celebrate Black history. Now we'll give some, you know, some also rans, some asterisks, you know, hook up some other people, our good people. We'll have Latinx history. We'll have gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual history. We'll have Women's Month. You know, we're still going to keep that, but the overarching branch, we're going for the whole year. So wish us well. So when we think about the importance of Black history, it is American history, because America couldn't be told without the convergence of a multiple strands, without the convergence of multiple strands, the weaving, let me mix my metaphors here, the convergence of multiple streams of Black and American, red, brown, yellow consciousness, female consciousness, gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual consciousness, right? And all of that is under the rubric as well of Black history, because gay people are Black too. Black people have been gay as well, are gay, or lesbian or transgender or bisexual, right? From the very beginning. Let's just put that on the table. All Black hands on deck. So if we want to challenge the notion of American history as also being Black history, which we should do, without understanding the history of Black struggle, without understanding not simply the great figures in Black life, but the great deeds, the great moments, the great movements in Black life, which have shaped American history. Think about the extraction of Black people from their resting place in Africa and brought here, 20 and some odd Negroes, souls, to Jamestown, up the road here from where I am in Washington, D.C., Jamestown, Virginia. The history of this nation cannot be told without the history of slavery. And yet we've tried to, you know, excise the parts we don't like, surgically take a knife and cut out the stuff we think is uncomfortable, discomforting, disconcerting. Just like me moving in this Zoom, you know, I'm trying to, you know, I'm usually a very animated person on the lecture stage, so I'm throwing down and saying stuff, and you know, you got to have Zoom protocol, Zoom etiquette. Stay still. We're getting vertical over here. It's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Oy vey, what's up? That's for you older people. You younger people have no idea what I just said, do you? Vertigo, you don't get that reference. James Stewart, was it James Stewart in Vertigo? One of them. You know, and Alfred Hitchcock, you even watch, you know, Nick at Night, Alfred Hitchcock comes on, come on, Me TV, what's up with y'all? Come on, you millennials, pick up. So without a sense of Black history, what happened in this nation at the beginning with enslavement of vast numbers of African people brought to America, dropped off first in the Caribbean, the greatest congregation of Black folk, African people from the continent in Brazil, Salvador da Bahia, right? Got a bunch. Brazil has probably the most Black folk outside of Africa congregated there. and then in the Caribbean, North America, then here in the colonies, what became the United States of America, right? So in that sense, we wouldn't even know what American history is without Black history. It's not the Nina and the Pina, and it's not people who came over on the Mayflower alone. That's important, that's critical, that's crucial, but it's not exclusive. It's not the only story to be told. And the ships that brought African people to America must be remarked upon, must be acknowledged, must be seen in Black history. This nation begins in acts of genocide. Let's just tell the truth. It ain't the Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning Kool-Aid discourse. Well, who's drinking Kool-Aid that early? Calm down. You know, water cooler, well, virtually at least. It ain't the early Starbucks coffee getting kind of conversation, but if we're going to be honest about it, genocide is a predicate of the expansion of the American nation. Because when they discovered where we were, folk were already here. As people in my hood say, folk was already there, bruh. So if folk were already there and you land upon not just Plymouth Rock, but upon Tecumseh, right? And is it Irving Berlin, one of those places? We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us, right? We are victims of democracy, Malcolm X would go on to say, in quoting that Irving Berlin or whoever it was that penned that Broadway play from which those lines are extracted. And so genocide of red peoples, of Indian people, of indigenous people is part and parcel of what we are. And this is not to be a Debbie Downer, but dadgum, we're not gonna get rid of what happened at the Capitol if we don't deal with the history of how this nation became what it is. Because maybe if people understood the real truth as opposed to the fake truth, if they understood the authentic narrative of imperial expansion, of American identity, of American manifest destiny, of American exceptionalism. De Tocqueville came here in the 1800s and said that this was an exceptional nature. We took one line and now made it the predicate of our culture. As Jay said, you made it a hot line, I made it a hot song. Oh, do you see me dropping this Jay-Z? I'm not sure you saw what I just did there. In his beef with Nas, right? Taking dead presidents to represent me. You made it a hot line, I made it a hot song. Dead presidents from Jay. Unreasonable Doubt, Dead Presidents Represent Me, 1994, from Nas's debut album. Illmatic, It's Only Right That I Was Born to Use Mics, and the stuff that I write is even tougher than dice. I'm taking rapping to a new plateau through rap slow. My rhyming is a vitamin hell without a capsule. A smooth criminal on beat breaks. Never put me in your box if you issue tapes. There ain't no extra charge for that. That's just chasing a little rabbit there to let y'all know. All you mumble rappers out there, there was a time when we spoke and understood what the rappers were saying. You know what I'm saying? No, we don't. So, in terms of then this American identity, the expansion of American empire, the expansion of American imperialism, the expansion of manifest destiny, the expansion of the American nation as an exceptional one, taking that one line from Tocqueville, how I started chasing Nas and Jay, from de Tocqueville. You know what? We used to Tocquevilles, and now we tote wills because we got killed in the process. Don't let me drop these lyrics like it's hot. I got bars, I'm telling you. So the point is that in American empire, the expansion of the American empire, the American nation, manifest destiny, we are destined to conquer the West. with the values of the East and make that territory subordinate to our conceptions of what the great destiny of God is indicated for America. America is exceptional among all nations because God has blessed her in a way God hasn't blessed other nations. What about if you're born somewhere else and be like, well, damn, we good too? Are the Lakers the only team? I mean, the New York, Knicks, how about, okay, maybe that's not a good example. Brooklyn Nets, Durant, Irving, and now, the Beard. I mean, are they the 76ers? They're other teams. America's a great team. They might be the Lakers, they might be the Celtics, but there are other teams out there. Sweden says, hey, what up? Yeah. How about in Germany? They say like we got stuff. We got 11th century stuff. Y'all were born 200 years ago and you think that stuff is old? We had to remake it in the Italian Renaissance 11 centuries ago, in the 11th century, and we apologize for it being so new. So there are other ancient cultures, civilizations in Africa, Mecca. What happens with the Songhai Kingdom? Right? There are other places, other spaces, other races, other traces of serious engagement with culture and integrity. So America's claim about being exceptional is constantly being adjusted in light of Native history, indigenous truths, and African American history. Black history is not simply here to complement, in one sense, give kudos to, compliment, like, you look so lovely today. And you all do, actually. And the other meaning of compliment, to go along with, to fit in with. Maybe in that sense, it is to compliment American history by challenging it, by saying, we know America's a great nation. We know this is a remarkable place to be from, behind that preposition. We know that this is an extraordinary collection of destinies and identities, but it ain't the only one. Howard Thurman, the great mystic, said, you can go to the Atlantic Ocean. You can dip your cup in the Atlantic Ocean. It may be full of the Atlantic Ocean, but it ain't all the Atlantic Ocean. You may have the truth. Everything you saying is true, but you ain't got the whole truth. You might be an American nation full of greatness, and you could be great, but you ain't the only one that's great. And African-American history reminds us of that. Why? Because a lot of the stuff America claimed to be, it wasn't. And it shows in contrast to how they were treating Black folk right in America. We're going around the world being the policeman of the world, the moral cop of the world, telling the world what it's doing wrongly and not rightly. And yet right here in America, we're suppressing the votes of people. Do you know the other day, it was revealed, maybe it was yesterday, by the Associated Press, 106 bills in 28 states trying to make more difficult voting because one side happened to prevail in the last election and the other side wants to stop their vote. And make no mistake, the other side does not have a bunch of, guess what, Black people, brown people, not to the degree that they possess others who are interested in suppressing the vote. Why isn't it that you're saying, let's have a better message and therefore win next time? Why isn't it saying, hey, we got to appeal to a broader constituency so that our message will get over? How about, hey, let's take into account Black and brown and red and yellow peoples, indigenous peoples, native peoples, peoples whose backs are against the wall, people who have historically been the victims of white supremacy. Can we do it that way? No. We want to suppress the vote. Harsher ID laws. Those ID laws seem to be quite well when you were voting for president number, let's see, 43. All of a sudden, when 44 comes in, different story. 45, back to the truth of a different story. These are interesting numbers. I'm from Detroit. We played the numbers. I dreamed about blood last night. Box it and put a dime on it. Y'all have no idea. You don't even know. Don't even, just look it up later. All right. Street lottery. So these numbers are interesting and intriguing. And all I'm saying then is that when we bring Black history into the sway, it ain't just, oh, look at the cute Black people. Look at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who seems to be the answer for everything. And I love King, the greatest American who ever lived in my view. But it's like, you know, who was the first man to die for the flag we now hold high? Remember that from Stevie Wonder? Y'all don't remember that. First man to die for the flag we now hold high was a Black man. Who was it? Dr. Martin Luther King? No, it was Crispus Attucks. First Black man on the moon, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. First man to win the Nobel Peace Prize, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. No, he wasn't, right? Ralph Abernathy won. Was it Albert Lesotho? Others, Latuli, I'm sorry, African man. So the point is that it ain't just about a Hall of Fame people, although you should know them. Michael Jordan, Bill Cosby, although he did what he did, one of the first Black entertainers to be on television, making a difference, can't deny that history. Diane Nash, John Lewis, Angela Davis, James Baldwin, Ralph Ellison, Audre Lorde, Barbara Smith, Septima Clark, Fannie Lou Hamer, Ella Baker, Joanne Robinson, Rosa Parks, Emmett Till, and on and on and on. Yes, know them names. Yes, know their names. Yes, understand who they are. But Black history is about more than a recall of significant figures whose names we should know. We should know the deeds of Black history. We should know what Black history decentered and what it recentered. It decentered the hegemony, big word for dominance, of a certain narrow American line of thinking. And it recentered an appreciation for the multiple streams that feed into our understanding of who and what America is, right? So Black history is important because we wouldn't understand first man to die for the flag we now hold high was a Black man. That's Stevie Wonder, by the way. Go listen to that song on his 1976 album. That's what it was. It wasn't a download, wasn't a stream, wasn't even a CD. It was a record. It was an album. Y'all don't know what that is. These are pressed, compressed, rubber and wax. And we had a stylus we dropped on it. And then it unspooled the wax and you would listen to it crackle, whiz, whip, crackle, snap, pop, like your cereal. But it was on an album. Go ask your grandparents what an album is, Vinyl. Now, some of y'all are into vinyl now. I'm sure you're archaeologists. You're sonic archaeologists. Sonic, hearing, aural, A-U-R-A-L, archaeologists. You're looking at vinyl and you're listening to it. It's original. Some of you are too much. See, we weren't making it an aesthetic and anthropological artifact. It's just what we had. We ain't had no choice. So we went to listen to those records and we had to wait in line. Y'all don't know nothing about waiting in line for music. Go to Tower Records. Oh my God, they're dropping the latest Stevie. What? Now that Stevie was even before, we were doing the Tower thing. Or Michael Jackson, the latest Michael Jackson, right? The latest Prince. My Lord, you couldn't get it dropped like Beyonce did. What? Beyonce dropped an album? The whole thing? And the videos? I've been drinking. My destilized, my isolized. Surfboard. I'm giving you color. I'm giving you life. Come on. So Stevie Wonder in 1976, Black man. He talked about the red, the yellow, the black, the brown man, human being. And so history is critical. American history is critical, but it is crucial that we understand what Black history does. It decenters a narrative of American destiny, of American exceptionalism, of American imperialism. It says that there are different narratives and stories. America is great, yes, but it is not the moral cop of the world. America is great, yes, but it is not the arbiter of ethical insight and vision and to apply to certain politics. Like we look over at Russia right now and see what's going on in the Soviet Union. Well, in Russia, when they locking people up for having their thoughts expressed, for being independent and autonomous and a critic of the state and of Putin. And we think that's horrible. Do you realize we just had a president who was in bed with Putin? Now, this ain't no ideologically, contaminated talk. I got criticisms of both sides, but dadgum. Think about that. America has been remade in the image of mythological purity instead of the depths of the contradictory moral, political, and social claims that constitute what this nation is. And so American history is Black history, number one. But number two, if it's Black history, it's got to be all of Black history. Can't just be the Black people you like, Black people you dig, the Black people who make you feel comfortable. And I ain't just talking to non-Black people, I'm talking to Black people too, right? So when I mentioned earlier, some people, about the gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, now we're all postmodern and open. Oh yes, of course, Jiminy Cricket. Yeah, but that ain't always been the case, and it still ain't the case for a lot of people, right? Black for them is heterosexual. Black for them is male. Black for them is straight. I was preaching at a church not long ago, Black church. Black woman came up to me and said, "You know you're going to hell." It's like, wow, really? Like, imagine the gall it takes to just step to me and say that. But I was like, that's dope that you can imagine that. Now I'm saying like, but did Jesus tell you that this morning? Because I just spoke to him and he ain't told me I was going to hell. Because if he had said that, I would say, Lord, do I have to watch my cholesterol then if it's all over? I mean, what the hell? If I'm burning in flames, come on, what up with that? And so she said, you know why you're going to hell? I said, no, why? She said, because you preached this morning. Oh, I'm a preacher. I didn't tell y'all that. Oh, you surprised? Oh, you're laughing now? Oh, really? Really? You women, stop. I see you, Miss Richards. Come on, stop cracking up. So y'all cracking up? I'm a preacher. I'm a preacher. You can tell I'm an unorthodox preacher. That's why I ain't got no church. Because I be having ideas, unorthodox. Pass out condoms on the offering plate. Yep, take one, especially the deacons and the leaders of the church. Yep, stop trying to demonize women in a hierarchy that is patriarchal and sexist and misogynist, or in this case, misogynoir, and deal with the internal dimensions of self-scrutiny. Trying to make pregnant girls come to church and own up to their sin. Who they impregnated them? Oh, I see. Maybe some of the religious leaders. See, that's why I ain't got no church. I'm just out here freestyling. Anybody, and I just guest star on other people's albums. I ain't got my own. You know what I'm saying? So I was just at the National Cathedral where Martin Luther King Jr. preached his last Sunday sermon. I'm heading to Riverside Church. If y'all in New York, March 7th, come on through. We're going to chop it up at Riverside. Mike D and you. So, the reality is, and I preached at Ebenezer Baptist Church. Thank you, Miss Connie Smith-Lindsay. I preached at Ebenezer Baptist Church with my man, Raphael Warnock, Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock. But see, I'm just saying, the woman told me I was going to hell. Like, well, dang. She said, because you preached that God made gay people. And I thought, and I said, wait a minute, you think I'm going to hell? And you're preaching A gospel of polytheism? You think there's a God for gay people and one for straight? What, did God take a day off? Hey, on Wednesday, I wasn't there, and that's when the gays got married. Is that how it works? On Thursday, I had a half a shift. That's the day the trans got put into production. Either God made everybody or God ain't made nobody. And so Black history challenges not simply the hegemony of white supremacy, the dominant narrative of American manifest destiny, of American exceptionalism. It challenges us with complicated notions of Blackness from within. Blackness has to be multiple. Some Black people upset that Black Lives Matter, founded by 3 women. First of all, just the gender issue. Then 2 of them, lesbian. Oh my God. Yeah, ain't that how God worked? All the stuff you think is important, God don't. So Black history has been made by those figures who either because they are rendered irreverent, marginal, peripheral, not seen as central to a narrative of the politics of respectability, what's appropriate, what can be had, what can be said, what can be seen as truly Black. Not just in terms of sexuality, but even in terms of class. Oh, them over there, them Black people over there, them ain't the ones, right? We don't want the ones from the bottom of history, from the underbelly of history. That's why there are class dimensions and tensions. This is why Bill Cosby went off and so many Black people supported him. We know a lot of white folks supported him as well. And the people with the thing and the jello and the button pop. He started saying that Black people who are poor, he said, pretty soon you're going to have a DNA card in the ghetto to determine who you're making love to. Because, you know, a woman has a baby at 13 and then her baby has a baby at 13. He said, you do the math. When she's 26, he said, I might be keeping you from having sex with your grandma. If a white person has said that, a lot of Black people be going off. So Black history means coming to grips with those strands and streams of consciousness, of constitution, of convergence, of building up, of development that challenge a narrow hegemonic notion, a dominant notion of what appropriate Blackness is, of the politics of respectability, so that it's one way and not the other. Malcolm, not Martin. Martin, not Malcolm. Men, not women. Not children who made this movement of civil rights. Black freedom struggles from the very beginning. Black women being centrally involved. Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth. So we have to have a much more complicated, nuanced, complex conception of Black history from within, so that we can appreciate the beautiful, complicated, gnarled, knotty, thorny, discomforting, disconcerting conception of Blackness, an irreverent conception of Blackness, not a nice conception of Blackness. Because when we add in all those dimensions, those people Black too. Black is as deep and wide, as profound as Black people have been. And Black people do unusual stuff. We're scuba divers. We jump out of planes. We bungee jump, maybe not as much as others did at that point, but right? We do all sorts of stuff. We're scientists and theoretical physicists. We're engineers. We're ditch diggers. And so the brilliant, beautiful, bristling complexity, the nuance, the complication, the conflict of Blackness from within, the sublime cantankerosity. There's a word, there's a phrase. Put that in a hip hop. The sublime cantankerosity. I look at you with the kind of ferocity, and I say my velocity speeds towards you, you my boo. This Black history, but I'll take you to school. Maybe we had Underoos, but that was an earlier day. Now I'm here to play. I'm here to say, what's up with today? Okay, I got bars. Like I'm drunk and an alcoholic going to a pub. So we have to have a convergence of complicated, conflicting, irreverent, dutifully provocative conceptions of blackness too, when we talk about blackness across the board. A beautiful, sublimely cantankerous blackness that ain't your mama's blackness, this ain't your grandma's blackness. This might not even be your church's blackness, but all of them can be proud of the ways in which those voices which have been silenced within the black church because they're gay or lesbian or transgender or bisexual, those black voices in the culture silenced because they're young and not seen as worthy of being heard. And yet young people have continually led us. Voices of Black Lives Matter, when your preferred civil rights organization was NAACP, it ain't got to be either or. Do you know that within Black history, if you study it, Roy Wilkins, who headed the NAACP, a great man, was hating on Martin Luther King Jr., a younger man, because he was in the streets. The streets. But since I said streets, rest in peace, Justin Diamond, Screech, Saved by the Bell. What up, bro? God bless your soul. And so Martin Luther King Jr. was seen as, believe it or not, a vituperative, controversial leader for some who believe we should take it to the courts. We should negotiate this. We should adjudicate this. This is a matter of legal precedence. Thurgood Marshall, they wasn't feeling King. Know your history. If you're going to have real Black history, understand the degree to which that Black history was cantankerously, sublimely cantankerous. They hating on King. He might as well have been Snoop Dogg, falling back on that ass with the hellified gangster lead, getting funky like a mic on the old batch of collard greens. It's the capital S-O, yes, I'm fresh in double O-P, D-O-double-G-Y-D-O-double-G, you see. Showing much flex when it's time to wreck a mic, pimping what and clocking a grip like my name is Dolomite. Watch that Dolomite movie. Watch that Dolomite movie with Eddie Murphy, one of the coldest made on Netflix. How y'all gonna sleep on Zendaya? Golden Globes, what's up with y'all? And I know the ladies mad that they slept on Bridgerton. What? That man's booty did not make, that acting did not make the Golden Globe. His golden orbs didn't make the Golden Globes. Oh, come on. And so, finally, not only does Black history make American better because it makes us understand American history, and not only do we have to have a more complicated notion of Blackness from within, thank you, Dr. Felisa, but also finally, when we study Black history, we are studying the means by which a people who were seen as socially marginal and politically peripheral become extraordinarily important, not because all of a sudden they do stuff that nobody heard of, but the stuff they have done has not been taken seriously. In other words, it ain't nothing new. They've been doing this, right? And if I were to, we done been doing this. This, we ain't new to this. We true to this. All right, I had to throw in the cliche. Black folk been making history. It's just that now we're recognizing that the history was made. So when we study Black history, don't act, oh my God, all right, it might be the first time you found out, and I ain't mad. I don't care what color you are. You could be Black, you could be brown, red, yellow, it don't make no difference. If you just discovered it, that's cool. But always say to yourself, just because I'm just discovering it doesn't mean it's just discovered. See what I did there? Stuff been around for a minute. Ms. Gail Warren, stuff been around for a minute. So that means that we have to understand there are ancient traditions, venerable practices that you are just now coming into contact with that you ain't even know about. Kamala Harris was already doing the AKA ski wee. Sorry, I mean, please don't beat me down. Any out, AKAs on this, please. I was just, please don't beat me up. I ain't saying the AKAs and the Deltas are worse than the Bloods and the Crips. I'm just saying. But she was already honed in a tradition that America is just now becoming familiar with. And thank God, because of her achievements, now they know what a sorority is. That is a Black one. Nicole Mapp, whatever, from the D, holla, West Side. So that they're now coming to grips with an extraordinary sense of Black fecundity, that is the fertility of Black identity, the beautiful propagation of notions of self-respect, of self-love that you may not be aware of, but we've been doing from the get-go. Now, negatively, this happened when a lot of people heard what Jeremiah Wright was saying in church when Barack Obama was running for president. We've been saying stuff like that. That ain't new. But don't take it out of context. Don't snipe. Don't come up in our churches and listen to 2 or 3 sermons and think you know what you're listening to. When I say we've been doing this, what I'm trying to really say is take the time to study Black people, Black culture. Don't think you know it just because you heard Beyonce on the radio. Because even Beyonce is a lot more complicatedly Black than you might recognize. Right? Saturday Night Live did it. Oh my God, she's Black. Yeah, she's been Black. Right? Daddy Alabama, mama, was it mama Alabama, daddy Louisiana? Hot sauce in my bag, swag. Stay gracious, best revenge, get your paper. She dropping maxims generated from authentic African tribal deities, identities, the Orisha that thread through her culture. Look, have you looked at Lemonade? Look at the complicated, nuanced, semiotic register, the interpretive magic, the wizardry, and the oral profundity, all blessed with her ingenious art. You got to study that. We've been doing this. We've been bad. We've been magic. We've been genius. We've been doing it. You got to take the time to study it. And so my few words to celebrate the beginning of this month, to invite you into conversation, to engage us as we think critically and sincerely and seriously and insightfully about what Black history means. Thank you so very kindly.
And thank you. That was great. We're so very appreciative of your time, and not only for the substance of your message, but the truly captivating and entertaining way in which you deliver it. When you joined us for ahead of Martin Luther King's birthday, you gave us some Luther Vandross, which is I'll never doubt your courage, because covering Luther is no joke. But today you gave us some Jay-Z and Nas and Snoop, and we'll be sure to pick up your mixtape when it comes out.
I appreciate that support, no doubt.
I'm always left in deep thought when I hear you speak and when I read your literature, and you always leave a lot to unpack. So I do want to, while we have you for a few more minutes, I do want to move to the Q&A and give our audience a chance to give you some questions. You point out, and I think it's undeniable that Black history is a part of American history, and it's inseparable. But I think it's also true that Black history has been largely ignored, in particular in our school systems. And that's part of the reason why Carter G. Woodson started Negro History Week, which has become Black History Month. There's talk of removing the study of slavery from school curriculums because there's a fear that it can give children a false or a negative idea of what America is about. And I wonder if you think that curriculum should actually step it up and make Black history a more critical part of their curriculums. And if that's so, what would that curriculum look like?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you raised that, sir. The thing is that we heard this propagated under the last administration, especially when it came to teaching Black history. Hey, this is horrible. Critical race theory is dangerous. We got to teach that this nation was great. When are you letting politics dictate your agenda, your syllabus? Right? I thought the right wing was mad at that. You can't let your ideological contamination of belief bleed onto the syllabus. Study history as you see it, as you know it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Thomas Jefferson was a great man. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson was the Secretary of State. Thomas Jefferson was the architect of Monticello. Thomas Jefferson was the president of the United States of America, and he had a relationship with Sally Hemings, a 14-year-old enslaved girl that he owned. That's all true at the same time. So trying to eviscerate history, trying to remove it, trying to eradicate it, trying to evade it is really crazy. And not right and wrong. And so we can't allow politics to determine programs, ideology to contaminate syllabi. And so we need to step it up. We need to teach more, not less, more history, more understanding of enslavement. Did y'all know that slaves weren't just on a big old plantation? Some of them lived in the city and they had passes and they could go out at night. What? Yeah. Study your history. Understand slave patrols, 1703-04 up in Virginia, because they wanted to control the nocturnal emissions of enslaved people. Then they started tamping down on them, sometimes hurting them and killing them. The precedent for police in America, study. America is really weird. On some stuff, it can't get enough history. How many more books on Abraham Lincoln, although I love him? More books on Alexander Hamilton. We need them. How many more books on the founding fathers, the founding mothers, the founding brothers? But when it comes to Black people, get over it. It's enough. Stop. We got 2 films on enslavement, and you just want to be done. I appreciate my Jewish brothers and sisters. The Holocaust, don't forget. Make movies of all kinds, make comedies, make documentaries, make dramatic movies, make hunting for people who were Nazis, talk about, the hateful culture that it produced, speak about fascism. Ain't enough. Enough ain't enough. And when it comes to Black people, same difference. Keep flooding the marketplace with ideas and identities that are complicated and nuanced. We need more history, not less. That's why people can storm the Capitol out of profound ignorance about what their history is, because maybe if they knew how complicated things were, then they wouldn't be willing to subordinate themselves to the dictates of petty fascists and populists as well.
You bring up the riot at the Capitol, so I'm going to take this question from Minneapolis. Coming to you from Minneapolis, where, as we all know, the murder of George Floyd occurred. The right wing loved to compare the events that followed his murder in Minneapolis to the attempted coup of our government on January 6th. It's dangerous and vile. How, with the media the way it is today and a political party who refuses to hold their own accountable, do we break through to explain that protesting the people who are there to protect the man on the street is not the same as attempting to kill those in position to lead? They were polar opposite events, which are twisting to fit their agenda.
Amen. All I'm gonna say is amen. Whoever said that, right on. Who said that? Who was that? That was somebody.
This is I don't have the name. It's out of Minneapolis.
Okay, Minneapolis. I hear you, Minneapolis. It's right. In the sense that trying to compare what happened in response to George Floyd, who was murdered in plain day, in broad daylight. And white people understood that, black people understood that, and native people understood that, Asian brothers and sisters understand that. So the reality is that we've got to understand that that kind of false equivalence is deeply and profoundly problematic. Responding to the murder of a man in broad daylight by officials of the state, officers literally of the state, of government, is different than, people trying to undermine the state with their capital offenses. See what I did there? So the thing is that they were trying to, at the Capitol, overturn the law that had been established that all people could vote. They were trying to undo a democratically arrived at verdict, if you will. The people have spoken. It is legal. It is moral. It is constitutional. And some Republicans, many Republicans, sided with those who were trying to undercut and undermine the very rule of law in this nation. And they often claim to be the arbiters of what is right. Give me a friggin' break. And to compare that to black people who obeyed the law, white people for the most part, and the little, quote, rioting that was done, they were destroying some darn buildings out on the street somewhere. Not that they should have, right? But the folk in the Capitol are destroying the most sacred temple of American democracy for the people. And that is the Capitol. So that's what lack of history does. And I want to thank Shilly Fisher for bringing us that, powerful, insightful deconstruction of a false equivalence that should never be made.
Related, we have Martine Manigat asks, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on multi-generational trauma Black people have experienced together with continued oppression with regard to the Capitol riot.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. And people don't take that into consideration. They think it's just, we watch it, it's all right. Just like we watch these snuff films, these pornography of Black death when Black people are being wiped out on film. We watch the multiple generations, the epigenetical transmission of trauma from one generation to the other, and we see it because we know had that been us, we'd have been dead. Black people would have been slaughtered. Bless the life of the woman who died, because I don't think anybody should have died, right? So I disagree with that. But at the same time, had that been us, there would have been multiple deaths, multiple body bags, multiple toe tags. We would have not escaped the scrutiny of and the vicious repudiation of the very people who are now standing up in government for those thugs, mobs, insurrectionists. Do you think that Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio would have stood up for Black people storming that Capitol in the name of democracy? They would have called them thugs. They even called Black people, along with Barack Obama. Let's be real. Barack Obama called the people at Freddie Gray thugs. Now, even though he could have said, look, I understand you upset. So, that's unfortunate. But dang, dude, if you're going to call them thugs, call these white folk thugs. Right? Thugs? They were outraged that yet another Black man died in police custody, died. And so Dr. King said a riot is the language of the unheard. No justification there. Both wrong, but one is wronger than the next by far. Because when you go to the Capitol, to the seat of government, and try to unseat democratically elected figures, overturn a democratically processed election, You are trying to eat away the very heart of the democracy you claim to represent, and that you claim that Black and brown and other people have attempted to undermine. So that trauma is real. The transmission of the trauma we endure and envision is real, and we've got to acknowledge it in fundamental fashion. But because we don't count, because Black lives don't matter, because Black bodies have not figured into the equation of American democracy the same way, that question is not even brought up. So I want to thank the questioner for even bringing it up.
I want to be respectful of your time. We have a couple more minutes left, but we have quite a few questions that come in. So,
all right, let's try to answer some of them.
All right,
I'm gonna do Jeopardy speed round here. I'll do some Jeopardy.
I'm gonna make you say that we have to stop. I'm just gonna keep coming with the questions.
All right.
What is the most critical legislation that the Biden administration and Democratic House/Senate can focus on for equality while they have majority?
Well, look, I mean, it's a great question. Some of the stuff that the president is doing now in terms of the the special edicts, we can call them that, the executive orders are extremely important. Restoring the ability of governmental agencies to be able to talk about, quote, critical race theory is important. But you got to get to these police departments. These covenants that were put in place under Obama with Eric Holder have to be restored. And we have to look seriously. And the president also talked about unlinking criminal justice system to paid figures and for-profit prisons. That's beautiful. But we got to go even further. We got to figure out ways in which the disproportionate concentration of Black and brown bodies in prisons has to be reversed for nonviolent drug offenses, I'm saying, right? And so think about it. A Black woman lies about her zip code because she wants her daughter, her child, to have a better education. 5 years in jail. Big Hollywood white celebrities spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more than $1 million, trying to illegally get their kids into college. And they're bitching about 2 months in prison, right? So this disparity is real, but even more lethal when it comes to locking up our kids for nonviolent drug offenses. So the disparity in sentencing white and non-white people is huge with us. And the police departments that continue with unabated intensity to kill us has to be addressed. And that legislation can be passed. We can talk about, look, even though they can't reverse, willy-nilly, the kind of qualified immunity, because that goes on. If you begin to defund police departments and then put monies, and what we mean by defunding police don't mean that they ain't got no money. It means that public safety is not the exclusive preserve of police departments. There are other means and methods to do that. So we begin to defund them and put monies in other places that are extremely important. Maybe you ain't got to worry about qualified immunity because less of these people will be involved in one-on-one confrontations with people of color that leads to their death. So that would be important and extremely important, and then valuable. And I'd say finally, if we talk about legislation as well, let's talk about the COVID stuff that's going on here in the body. Let's talk about, therefore, continuing to strengthen legislation aimed at protecting Obamacare. That's extremely important for us. And then we can talk about education, a lot of other stuff, but those two I would say are important.
We're out of time, so I'm gonna throw you a quick one and give you a shot at some self-promotion here. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. Can you give us your top 3 books you recommend to dive into Black history?
The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. Shadow and Act by Ralph Ellison. Beloved by Toni Morrison. And
very important, another anonymous attendee wants to know if you're going to join Clubhouse.
I'm like Master P, man. I mean, can some Black people come up with it? If Black people come up with the Cliz of his house, I'm joining in a minute. Now, I'm probably going to have to do something on Clubhouse because there's so many people going on there. But I agree. why can't we, and I ain't saying this in a chauvinistic way, racially speaking, but Black people made Clubhouse. The hip hop community made Clubhouse. If we make it, can we not build it? Can we not construct it in terms of its technology? Now, the question is, would Black people feel it is as sexy if we created ourselves as, quote, the white man creating it too? That's something we got to ask ourselves. So I'm gonna probably end up joining at some point, but right now I'm trying to protest until I can get something else going on.
I think we're going to end on that note. I'll thank you again. This was fantastic. I hope we have an opportunity to invite you back.
Let's come back. Let's do it like every couple months. Let's do it, man. Let's hang out. Let's hang out.
We'll see what we can do. But again, thank you so much for your time. And on behalf of Outfront and everyone who was fortunate enough to be part of this, our thanks and appreciation.
Thank you so very much. Client Strategy, Courtney, Veronica, Brother Davis, appreciate y'all so very kindly. And thank you for this great opportunity. Look forward to coming back very soon.
Terrific. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Take good care.